Alrighty, guys, we're doing another one of our mat chats, and this time I wanted to actually dig in a little bit about Coach Corey, so you can learn a little bit about him and what got him into martial arts. So you know the guy that is putting you through the ringer every single night. What inspires him and what makes him tick. So to start, tell us about how you even got started in martial arts.
Yeah, so I got started around 14 years old. I was a big fan. I was a child of the 90s. I was a big fan of like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jackie Chan, all these great on-screen heroes. I really liked what they projected, and I wanted to be that. So at 14, I started training in my first martial arts, which were Korean Hapkido and American kickboxing and Muay Thai.
Did you just like wander? Was it like a Karate Kid moment, like you see them kicking through a window, or was there that art, those arts in particular drew you, or how did you?
At first, Hapkido drew me when I was still kind of ignorant and more of the combat-based martial arts. I liked Hapkido because it was kind of well-rounded. You punched, you kicked, you threw, you did joint locks. Obviously, that would set up for my later philosophy. But yeah, I just, I looked up what Hapkido dojings were in the area, got started with them. About 16 years old, I got the urge to start competing, and then that's when I started training in American kickboxing and Muay Thai because I wanted to get in the ring and test myself.
Did you have to go to another gym for that, or
Yes.
did they offer that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had to start seeking people who were also combat-based martial artists. And actually, one of my first Muay Thai and kickboxing coaches was a guy named Glenn Hudson. He's very famous in the Midwest. He's a world Muay Thai champ. He was world boxing champion. So I sought him out to kind of increase my ring skills and my ring knowledge.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like I do know that name, but I don't know. Maybe it's. But awesome. And so let's see. So how long before you were competing?
Gosh, so I started training when I was 14, and I had my first kickboxing fight when I was either 16 going into 17 or I was 17. I can't remember. It was one of those ages.
That was all just stand up. That one was kickboxing.
Yeah, I was at that time I'd only done kickboxing. Striking arts were kind of my thing of obsession at that moment. I hadn't discovered grappling yet, so.
So what was your first match like? What was that experience like?
Oh man, it's funny because it was many years ago and I can still recall it to this day. But I had my whole family there: my mom, my dad, my little nephews. My English teacher came from
Cool.
school, so it was kind of surreal. But it was great. I fought in a small little suburb called Tinley Park, Illinois, and I had a fight with a guy that was 2-0 or 3-0. He was much older than me. He was actually 25 to my 17 or 16. I can't remember what I was. But I ended up winning a unanimous decision. I ended up breaking his collarbone and bruising his ribs.
Wow.
So at 16, I got to experience like, wow, that's what a fight is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the younger brother picking on the older brother.
Yeah.
Experience. Yeah. Well, very cool. And then okay, so then you have your first kickboxing match. How soon were you back in there again?
I fought a lot right off the get-go from there. I had another kickboxing match, I think 3 months down the road from that. After that, I had a boxing match. And then after that, that's when I started wanting to get into mixed martial arts, and that's when I started seeking out grappling coaches. Yeah.
What was your first impression of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially in light of doing Hapkido, wrist locks, all this stuff? What was that like, the transition?
It was, wow, this is vastly different from what I've done. It was actually really nice. It was a good humility check. I think as a young gentleman, when I had done well in combat sports, I kind of had, as a young man can, an inflated ego. So when you discover a whole new art that can kind of trump your art if you don't know what you're doing to defend against that art, it was mind-blowing, and almost instantly I sought someone out to teach me afterwards, because I was like, well, I never want that to happen again, so
yeah,
let me find a good teacher.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes people find something that is very humbling, and they'll do the opposite. They'll like, I'm gonna go back to my art, and we're gonna talk about all the reasons why yours wouldn't work in the street and mine would, and, that sort of thing. Or the other option is to turn to it and like all right, I'm going to open my eyes even wider, And so it's cool that you said, hey, that was humbling. I want more of it,
Most definitely. For me, it was I had trained, for years now at that point, and I always said, I'm like, I don't want my training to feel like it wasn't working or obsolete. I just had to adapt to my training. So
yeah, very cool. And so then, so that was 16, and then you're competing. And then you started competing in mixed martial arts right around
18 years old. So
18.
I had my first official MMA fight when I was still a senior in high school. That was really surreal. It almost didn't seem like it seemed like a dream at points. Like I'm like, wow, like all their friends are going to school dances and doing bake sales, and I'm fighting another human in a cage. And it was definitely a wild ride, especially back then. When I was fighting in MMA, when I first debuted in MMA, in the state of Illinois, we didn't have any commission. So you would get guys that didn't make their weights, guys that would hide stuff in their gloves, guys that would cheat. Like, yeah, it was a wild ride for sure.
What was kind of is there one experience that sort of stands out to you that was kind of like this is how wild it got?
Yeah, so I'll leave the promotion unnamed, but there was a great promotion I worked with back when I was a young MMA fighter, and I remember being on one of their events, and every time it seemed like in the Midwest, day of the fight or night before, people drop out. I think reality sets in. Oh my gosh, I have to go do this tomorrow. People don't want to do that. And I remember being a part of one event where the matchmaker for one of their main event fights, one of the main guys fell out, and he had to call someone from the local county jail, bailed him out so he could come fight. So they had a main event, and that was probably the wildest thing. I was like, oh my gosh! I'm like, okay. I'm very happy to hear now that Illinois has a commission and they're doing things legitimate, because that was a special time to be
straight from prison.
Yeah, straight out of cell block B. But yeah, that was probably the wildest moment back in.
Who won, out of curiosity?
Actually, the guy that got out of jail, he was what we call a tomato can, or you hear can jobber, all that. He was expected to lose. He was fighting a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, but he ended up winning by choke. It was incredible. Like the weirdness of that night just got weirder.
But he didn't win by shank. He lost by choke.
He lost by a very bad but somehow effective guillotine choke. It was wild.
Some filed down pen in his glove.
TKO.
But okay, so crazy, and I mean, it's been over a decade since then. When would you say you really? Because tell me if I'm wrong, but I'd say you define yourself kind of more as I am a grappler now.
Yeah, you know what? To an extent, I'd say as far as my competition opportunities, grappling, of course, is where I like to stick. Just because years ago, I would say like I had a little head injury after an MMA fight, and as you get older, it makes you realize about yourself and what you want. And I loved fighting, but I loved the competing, just the competition more. It didn't have to be MMA. And so that's why I seek out more grapple. But honestly, like I just consider myself a martial artist. I love to kickbox still. I love to grapple. I love to do the MMA. I love to, if we get sticks out, I love to do all that stuff still. So anything that's fun, I'll do. But mainly the grappling gets a lot of my attention these days, just because it's getting more popular, and it's something that everyone can do.
Yeah.
If you sometimes people got bad knees, they can't train kickboxing or Muay Thai or this or that, but it seems like jiu-jitsu's soft enough where we can all train it.
Well, even like the head of the Gracies, the father, Helio.
Yes.
He was like in his 80s, right?
Still 90s until he trained up until the day he passed away. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is cool to see that it's longevity is definitely, because that would suck to like something you love and are passionate about. You only have like a window.
Yeah.
And for a lot of sports that are contact based, a lot of that window is pretty early. Like in your 40s, you're kind of having to hang up the gloves, so to speak. And so it's cool that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu keeps that outlet going.
Yeah, it's really neat, because it's something that if you are older and you do want to compete, you do have that drive, you can still do it safely, because there's a division for you. I always joke around with the students here, but I always say they have old people divisions, 35 plus, 40 plus, 45 plus, 50 plus. So this can always be something you can follow if that's your passion.
Yeah. I always liked in boxing, like once you were 35, it was like you were in the masters division.
You're the old man.
In other words, you're an old fart. Like, I'm in the masters division. You're not old, you're a master.
You're a master.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. But okay, so now, so we've been talking a lot about the competition side of things, but maybe, I mean, here you are teaching here at the gym. How did you get into teaching? You were teaching in Chicago before that.
Yeah, so what had happened was after my main competitive career died down, I had some illness in the family, and of course that takes you away from your passion, so I had to fill in the role of provider for my family. But when I got back into it, I was actually looking to help teach at a gym when an old friend of mine, or he's a good friend of mine now, but we were kind of an acquaintance. He'd been a guy I'd seen at fights where I was fighting at. He was well respected, a guy named Sean Terrence, who hopefully I get to bring him down sometime soon. I'd love to have him here to help teach a class. But when I was talking to him, he said, hey man, how would you like to I'm looking to start a jiu-jitsu program at my school, a straight jiu-jitsu program. He had a Muay Thai program, he had an MMA program, he didn't have a straight jiu-jitsu program. So I joined up with him and we created an awesome team, an awesome program. By the time I left Chicago, I had multiple gold medal champions, men, women, kids, teens. Like he definitely brought me in and let me run the show, and it was really great because I got to help my own teaching ability. I felt like as I was teaching more while I was competing, my knowledge of technique got tighter, so I was able to pass it on to my students. My guy Sean, my friend Sean, he definitely brought me kind of back full frame into the fold of teaching and running a gym.
Nice. And then tell me a little bit about the transition to here.
Yeah. So obviously when I came down here, we were pretty much in the height of COVID, which was very uncertain. But what I did was in Chicago, after the gym shut down, because we had to by law, I offered to take whatever students wanted to into a private lesson format. So just so my students that needed this as their mental health outlet, their physical outlet, they would still have that. Because I know when I had to work from home for my job, I was going cuckoo. I was totally going crazy. And the one thing that really kept me grounded and sane through the scary part of COVID was I still was able to teach and train. So through that, I again got to focus in, and eventually you and I got to talking through online, and then I came down here, and it's been great ever since. I started teaching fitness kickboxing classes, the JKD classes. I remember we were on bags back then, because again we were in the height of COVID, and it was just really exciting to start expanding more here once everything kind of opened back up and settled down.
Yeah, and we've been having big classes, and I kind of joked that you stole my classes. My classes got small because of your classes. So, but I mean that's a testament to how much fun your classes are. Is people definitely only have great things to say. So it's really cool. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to ask, and I also wanted to ask about. Well, I guess before I ask, I go. So we've got a tournament coming up.
Yeah.
So tell me, what has you excited about like where things are right now with the tournament, with the classes, just kind of where your headspace is with the gym now.
Yeah. So I mean, we're like on full steam ahead, all engines going. We have multiple students competing in April. I'll give a shout out to a couple of them, but we got Kish competing. Dawn competing, and Ron competing. We also have Stephanie and Liz competing, and Louise Tapia competing. We got some people doing MMA, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing. It's exciting. It's exciting to see people excited. I know when we get older, life becomes a little bit more mundane, and we look for excitement in little things like going out to dinner or going out for movies, but this is a big excitement thing for everyone. We're getting ready to go compete, test ourselves in San Antonio. It's just like it's a big energy kind of place to be these days, especially here in our Muay Thai class, our fitness kickboxing at 6:45, our jiu-jitsu. There's a good energy and everyone's like really driving that up. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the last question I want to ask you, but actually I'm going to throw out my side of it real quick. Is I wanted to ask about, because you mentioned earlier like something about your martial arts philosophy. And I thought, oh, that's actually, I'd love to hear in a nutshell what you would say your philosophy is. But something you just said makes me kind of think of my own, which is the idea that like when you look at the world kind of in a day-to-day window, whenever you're playing, whenever you're doing something you enjoy, that's usually considered downtime, non-productive time. And when you're hard at work, that's when you're being productive. And so that's when it's like, you're wasting your time when you're just playing games or enjoying yourself. And you're accomplishing something, you're being productive, you're making use of the day when you're hard at work. But then if you zoom out to imagine you're on your deathbed, you're not sitting there going, oh man, all those reports I did, I'm so glad. No, it's your mind goes back to all the times you spent playing or spending time with people you love doing which it goes back to the things you're doing when you're not at work.
Yeah.
I would assume. I've never been on my deathbed, but that's what I would assume. So my philosophy is sort of like the play is the most important thing, and martial arts for a lot of people, it's the interaction with people, it's the using your body, it's the exploring new things and testing yourself, and that fear that you feel when you spar, and and having to push against your own ego, and just all these things in that arena. Like that's what life is about, is just enjoying those things, and work is not that thing. But.
And it's funny, just like going off that, when I was younger, of course, I used to think a good time was a Friday or Saturday night out till all hours of the night. And now my idea of a good time is a Monday night jiu-jitsu class. Like I want to be here rolling. I want to be here teaching, and that's where I feel like I'm my best person. It's no longer the late nights out. It's like, this is actually where I want to be. And it's like, I think that's the most special thing about this, is when you fall in love with art, like martial arts, you then get this little addiction, and it's a healthy addiction. It could be obsessive, but it's a healthy addiction. You're not drinking alcohol, you're not eating bad food, you're not just kind of chilling, blobbing out on the couch. You're here, you're working, you're getting healthy, you're learning a skill, which in today's crazy world is definitely needed. I think this is like, honestly, as you get older, like better memories are made on the mats than they are at the bars of the restaurants.
That's a good, yeah.
That's how I feel.
Still that'd be good. That'd be a good thing for an ad. I was also thinking maybe an ad like, for a good time, call fighting fit, So unless that was sort of it, what would you say your overarching martial arts philosophy is, or is that kind of
my overall philosophy is train with your heart, train with intent, have fun, keep an open mind. I feel like that's a big thing, is keep an open mind, learn as much as you can from who you can, and at the end of the day, have it be a positive experience. Attach any sort of positivity or shining light to working out, training self-defense, put that in the best possible light. That way you'll always be able to train in it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And actually, just a quick little plug for a good time in April. What could you do?
So a good time in April, you can sign up for Coach Mike Martell's seminar. He's going to be here the 9th and 10th. Spots are already filling up. Forrest and I were just checking this morning. We're like, wow.
They're halfway full.
Yeah, we're halfway full. So, and we just started advertising it. We just opened it to the public. So book your sessions now. The morning sessions, that will be from 10 to 12:30. Those are going to be Muay Thai focused. Day 1 is pad work. Day 2 is footwork. This is going to be great for anyone in not only the Muay Thai class, but for your fitness kickboxing class. This is going to teach you a lot more, give you a lot more context. And then, of course, for your grapplers, book those classes, book those spots in your seminar. The day 1 is going to be case katami. Everyone here at this gym loves case katami. It's one of our favorite positions. It's one of Mike's specialties. And then day 2, we're going to be going over sambo tactics, which is really cool. There's actually no Sambo school in Austin, and the closest one I believe is in Dallas. So we're gonna have like the only actual Sambo teacher in quite a few miles around here teaching championship material. So book your spots, guys. You're gonna really love this one.
And what if you're more into the kickboxing for the fitness? You're never planning on competing?
Yeah, I mean, still great stuff, guys. The pad work part of the seminar, you're just going to learn how to hit more effective, better technique. You're going to get a great workout in. Anyone who does pads knows it is a workout. So it's just going to better your technique. And then same thing on the footwork portion. I know we don't use a ton of footwork in our fitness classes, but it's something you can add into your bag work. It's something you can add into your pad work that we do in our bag classes. So it's going to be beneficial for you. If you want to learn just how to hit better, Muay Thai or kickboxing style, definitely sign up for that.
Yeah.
That seminar.